What's going on, everybody? My name is Evan DeGraff, and I'm your host of Famous Last Words today. This show is practically where I sit down and I interview with a very special guest. That today, a French Canadian coming out from Rochester, New York, now living in LA, is Pat Hogue, the filmmaker himself. We're just going to get right into it. What's up, bro?
J'ai parlé au français.
Oui,
oui, oui.
No, I'm kidding. He's not French Canadian.
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep saying it, but
No, I got some French in me. It's the because my last name is Hogue. That's my mom's maiden name, which is that's my dad's maiden name. It is a very French sounding name, and I have family lineage that comes from France, but my mom's maiden name is Boyle, which is very Irish, and I think is also really cool. So I'm constantly battling between these two lineages. But sorry, I was just writing my Oscar speech. Didn't mean
your Oscar speech.
Yeah,
you have all of these connections, and now you're writing your Oscar speech before you've even been nominated.
You gotta prepare for these kind of things. Am I right?
That stresses me out. That's not the thing to do.
Yeah, if someone's gonna take a screenshot of my public image for the next 3 years, something like I did it. Hi, Evan. Good to be here. I'm excited.
I am too. You and I have had some interesting conversations about film, and you don't really talk about your filmmaking all that much, which is dumb because it's great. You do some really interesting things.
We'll
get into that, but
yeah. Now here, I'll let you intro the show before I start.
I mean, I did at the top. You can prowl away all you want. Also, Max said, "Hello, my beautiful friends." And PJ's also wondering where's the Godzilla vs. Kong trailer? Was it
PJ? It's not all about movie news. We're talking about me now, okay? I get it's the PJ Campbell network, but this is Pat Hogue's time, okay? Stop making it about you.
Look right above you, Hogue. What's it say?
Oh. Wait, Famous Last Words?
Yeah, it's that. It's not the PJ Campbell show. It's Famous Last Words.
I thought you were threatening me of these were my last words, and before something horribly comes in and ruins it.
Could you fucking imagine? Oh wait, it says that I'm Steve, not PJ. Oh hi, Steve. PJ's not on the channel right now. I'm Evan, and that's Pat.
Hi. But to be fair, the comment above it does say PJ : then the line, implying that PJ said that. So that's we're right, too, right, Steve.
I'm so sorry. But anyways, you and I know each other through PJ, right?
Yeah, pretty recently we linked up and kind of hit it off and just kind of got into this groove.
So we do these things called movie watch alongs, which I don't know what a movie is anymore. I've lost all sight and focus. I just sit down and say there's art in front of me.
I thought I had a conception of all the basic things in society, and then just everything has now gone out the window of my understanding of society.
It's so funny because you and I did two different binges. I don't know if you're still doing that binge, but you're doing A to Z while I did all the Pixar movies. Are you still going through your A to Z binge?
This is going to be a revealing show about the people in my life. And my roommate, she has interesting habits. Love her to death. Won't reveal her name, but she has a rule. Every year she will watch a number of movies, not thinking she'll get through the entire alphabet, but she will watch a movie that starts with every letter of the alphabet. And quarantine came around, we started watching movies, and she was choosing the first couple, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is fun. And then I suggested one, she was like, no, it starts with an R. I'm like, yeah? She's like, oh, it needs to be a different letter. And I didn't get it, but it's a tradition, it's a heritage, I'm going with it, and now we are, let's look at our list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies in. And the next one we're watching is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. So we're going out of order, but we're going to hit
that out of order stuff chips me up because why can't it go A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on and so forth? Then you go A, and then you're at fucking R, and then you do C, and then now you're at S, and you're just like, what's happening?
Yeah, but now we're I have a list, and now we're switching back and forth. So that way, if somebody really wants to do an O, starting movie, they won't claim it over the next person because we're not going in line, but they are they do have to make an argument to be I really want to watch Old Boy, and then the other person's like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. So
would you really show your roommate Old Boy? You would do that to someone?
I haven't seen it, and I really want to.
Wait, you haven't seen Old Boy?
The original, yeah. No, I
Oh my
really, and so
god.
we watched like Rosemary's Baby. I showed her Back to the Future, which she never saw. So it's like we're filling in each other's gaps for movie kind of what's it called when you knowledge. That's a word.
Yeah. But I'm so shocked you haven't seen Old Boy. Knowing what I know now, you would love that movie.
There are movies on my need to watch list that I'm certain I would love. I've never seen Goodfellas. I
haven't either. You're fine.
See, that's the qualifier. Somebody else who hasn't seen it, they're like, yeah, why would I? And then the second they do, they're like, bro, watch this movie like now. But this is now I'm like, oh, why haven't I seen Rosemary's Baby? And then we watch it and I'm like, great movie.
But your answer would have been Ratatouille, not Rose.
Love Ratatouille. Don't get me wrong, but we're trying to be academic here.
It's important. It's an important movie. It's like it shifted Pixar history because then they got totally bought out by Disney at that point because Steve Jobs was about to buy Pixar, but Disney was like, nah. And then Brad Bird's final original Pixar movie.
Well, technically, he wasn't starting that movie. Like, I know, he was,
which is even the better part about it.
It was originally a Rob Schneider movie called Rats! ! And it was directed by the guy who directed the short about the chess game between like the same old person. But apparently it was going so wrong. And then Brad Bird was brought in to save the movie. And he turned out a masterpiece like in a year and a half. And they're like, okay, you get to do whatever you want, Brad. You saved this one and made that moment when Max, I'm sorry. I don't mean to disappoint you. That moment at the end where the critic goes like, my compliments to the chef, and like has that review of like, a great chef can come from anywhere. And then like Remy's just sitting out, like, I'm spoiling Ratatouille, folks.
Watch the movie if you haven't. Like, watch it, please.
I love Ratatouille. Great movie.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about it for 2 hours.
I mean, honestly, that's a podcast and a half. PJ, if you're listening, we have to do this now. But we're here to talk about you. You're a filmmaker too. You create movies.
Yeah.
When did you start to like these talkies?
All right, so
I said talkies.
I was wondering where you were going to start because I don't think my life's interesting. It's pretty kind of like generic in a lot of ways.
But here's the thing: if you think your life isn't interesting, you're still one of the most interesting people I've met. Which is the whole that could be the whole like juxtaposition of you. Your life.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I've I don't know, born in Canada, moved to the US when I was young because my dad got a job out here. And then when I was little, like I kind of middle school, starting to go into high school, like the explosion of YouTube started. Like that was like 2006, 2007, 2008. And ironically enough, Fred, do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
The first thing I ever tried to make was a spoof of Fred called Bob. And it would be me trying to make my voice low, going like, hey, it's Bob. And I filmed something with like my dad's like handy cam that came on tape decks that you had to like process to make digitized. So, and this was after like failed attempt after failed attempt, like seeing all these like YouTube, like Niga Higa on Ryan Higa on YouTube and like Smosh, like all these like people like making it big on YouTube just by being idiots in their backyard. I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
I was also like 13 and had no like dissonance of presenting yourself online in a very responsible way. But like after like trials and tribulation, just made like little dumb shorts. A lot of these I've made private already on YouTube, but then, but you know, they're there and at some point they'll come out and I'm like, hey, we all had to start from somewhere, folks. So there's that. But this was also
documentary.
Pat and his dog, Zoe. But this was also in the boon of like movie reviews on YouTube, like, you know, and kind of like the ecosystem where we've all evolved from. Like that's when I really got into Jeremy Johns and Schmoes Know.
Yeah, that boom started 2012 because Avengers came out and people wanted to do everything about it.
Totally, but like I was in 2010, like watching like their Inception reviews, like even before that, like the rumors of what the next Batman movie was going to be like the topic of every big video. You know, this was when like speculation about like, you know, is Christopher Nolan going to come back? And I just ate it up. I loved it. And I was like, oh, I could do movie reviews. I just sit in front of like a wall and I edited on iMac, which sucked. I truly was just kind of vomiting all this kind of like different stuff to try to format. None of it in my mind was filmmaking. It was just kind of like it was very specifically, I'm making YouTube videos.
Right. Making content.
Yeah. And it wasn't until like a family friend of mine, his name is Michael Blankenship. He has a family, he has a wife and a beautiful child, out, very successful. He did local kind of like videography for our church, different communities.
Right.
He was a good friend of the family, and I'm like 14. I'm like, can I help? And he's like, yeah, come on board. And he had like kind of a professional camera. He had a tripod, which I was like, that's neat. Why aren't you stacking it on 20 books? And he just made
the best though. Like that, like that's how you know you're resourceful, at least, is that you're doing that, at least, you know.
The best filmmakers know how to work with the jankiest shit in the world. Like, if you need a professional dolly, you can find other ways to like move a camera smoothly. But I did a couple of his kind of little shoots that he brought me on, and he really just kind of like got that bug started in me of like, oh, there's a way to like kind of climb up this ladder. And I don't know, filmmaking in middle of high school, I went to like a filmmaking camp where I met one of the counselors who went to the school I eventually went to, which was a local school at the Rochester Institute of Technology.
Right.
And I'm skipping over a lot of beats, but I look back at that YouTube time of, I made a lot of shitty stuff. It sucked. It was kind of like just kind of figuring out, one, what the process was, and two, of like what kind of interested me to make. But it was funny to get to school, get to college, and see a lot of people the first year doing what I had to figure out years ago. So I got that weird kind of like leg up of, you know, I'm a kid born out of the YouTube boom, like revolution, but very much in the idea now of I want to do more like the classical filmmaking of films that get released, not really like digital kind of like media. But that very much like informed me and got me going on the path I'm on. It's kind
of like that same way how they might not be movies, but like most of when Casey Neistat was doing the vlog a day, how he would call them movies and not videos. Those to him were making movies. It's kind of in that same light.
And it's also when like you start studying film and you start studying artists, you don't just look at like kind of just their individual works. You look at the body of kind of how they've expressed themselves. Of like some directors do, you know, music videos, documentaries, online like media now. And I don't know, it's fun to look back at like the YouTube section of a lot of filmmakers' careers and see that how those germs of like their creative people were expanded when they had bigger and flashier toys to play with later. So that's kind of like the generic start.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that I'm interested about is your body of work, from my understanding, is very horror-esque. In all fairness, and this isn't a shot, it's true. Whenever a lot of filmmakers start out, it starts in the horror realm, not because it's easier, but it's they're simpler stories sometimes, and you can do a lot with them.
Yes,
so it's more about showing off your technical skill and your proficiency and being able to tell a linear story that also, you know, has layers and depths and whatnot.
Yeah, it's with horror, I'm always like, it never made sense to me why people look down on it as a genre or as kind of like a medium to tell stories. Because it always excited me whenever, especially when I was younger, if a big actor was going to be in a horror movie. Because when you're in a horror movie, you are allowed to go to extremes. You're allowed to like be super dramatic, be super terrifying, and it fits within this box. And like you can go literally to the limit where that's acceptable and you get like NC-17. And so like I always saw horror as an opportunity of, you have like a very defined extra limit to go to. And the best films are the ones that kind of maintain a good movie that work with on that line, but like kind of like a heartbeat, like are willing to like jump up to like those extremes. And the best horror movies understand that they have the capacity to really go there. So there's always that tension throughout the movie.
And when you talk about tension during the movie, not to like talking to film, but like when Parasite's probably the best recent example of that, where you take horror elements. They might not be directly horror elements, but they're horror elements in terms of filmmaking.
And that's what like Bong Joon-ho is. And like if looking at truly what the job of a director is, it's to maintain tone. Whatever the tone of the movie is, the director has to make sure that every shot, every performance, every cut, every edit works within that. And what's like brilliant about Parasite is that it has 30 different tones that all feel cohesive in the same movie. Yeah. A bad director, it would feel like, what is this, a slapstick comedy? Now it's like a slasher movie. Now it's like trying to be political. Now it's trying to be like about society. Or it's Bong Joon-ho. It's like, it's all the same. That's life.
Right.
He's just got too much of a grasp on his craft.
So was that always your favorite genre growing up, or did it just happen to be the one that you were magnetized? I guess that's the word.
Attracted to.
Attracted to. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know. It's something definitely when I went to film school. It was never kind of like the plan to like make horror movies. I just kind of, for every film I made in school, there were like 4 different ideas that kind of got thrown out in terms of like either logistically that's not going to work, or just kind of, creatively I wasn't feeling up to it. But it was that, I don't know, a lot of my stuff at the YouTube time was comedic sketches, because I thought like, yeah, follow the smosh, follow the YouTube kind of grind. And I did a lot of musicals in school where I acted in them, and I felt very like comedic and over the top. And I think the first like real film I made at college was a film where I found out I had a day left to live. So I'm going to like complete the last task of my life. And it's very kind of melancholy, and it's very sad, and it's very morose. But I wanted to be it. Like, it ends on kind of a hopeful note of like, I played myself playing that character, and it ends on a note of, but that's okay, because you know what? I found the true meaning of life in this one day. Right. It was very dumb. It was very over the top. It was very like overly dramatic. But with every horror film I made, I'm like, can I be that spooky thing? I love seeing monsters. I love being creepy, but can I add that extra element of like emotionality to it? Especially like with we'll get to, but like, I know what it takes to make a horror movie, and I know what it takes to be scary, but the hard part is, can I make it still dramatic and make the actual tension and scares be, I don't want to see these people get hurt.
Yeah, between the characters, and like the fact that it's more than just the scare. It's why is this scare even happening?
Yeah. But it is funny, because between every kind of like horror film I made something very tonally different.
Right.
My junior year, I made an experimental film that has no dialogue, has just kind of like, it's all visually told. I shot it with different cinematographers for different scenes to kind of give it a different cohesive feel. My thesis, which I have the poster back there, which I use as my studio dressing, is called Sherman. Oh, I just put it in front of it. It's about it's about a pair of siblings that, walk around their hometown for their father's funeral, trying to like reconnect and understand each other. And it's that one is much more in line with the tone of like Her, or like something like much more Spike Jonze. And I love horror. I love like the fun you can have with it. I love how dark you can get. I think that's very healthy to like experience that fear. But I love optimism. I love hope, and I love bright colors. So I don't know. I'm in a very much of a horror groove right now, but I will divert from that and go to like funner, bigger things.
Yeah. So your first film, you're not your first, but
it's technically my sophomore film. So that's my like second film I consider.
Your sophomore film, Coming Home. Let's talk a little bit about it. I was texting you during it, because it's a bad habit, but I like to text people during.
I like the live reactions. That's fun. It's like, ooh, he's that part.
I know it definitely screams student film.
Yeah.
Which you and I have had this conversation, and that's not an issue. You are in film school for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And it's again, the way I described it to you is that it's kind of the first film. It's my worst film that I would still show to people.
Right.
With the context of like, hey, I made this 7 years ago. I made this like as really like the first thing with a crew, with a budget, with equipment. And and it's every semester after school, you show your film in front of the entire student body and faculty members. And then you go up and you take notes. Everybody, like anybody can raise their hand and tell you like, critiques, what they thought, if they liked it. And a lot of the notes I got on that one of like well constructed tonally, doesn't really have much of a backbone, feels kind of like not well thought out. And I take a lot of notes to heart. I've gotten a lot better about like listening to notes and like understanding where people are coming from and digesting that. But that one was very much a lesson in horror movie 101 of I just kind of did a lot of spooky events that led to nothing. And it's like, I don't know. It's that one's a weird one that I look back on. I'm like, I definitely would not have made those same decisions now.
But you have to make those decisions at that time because you don't know how to learn from it, especially like shooting a film and watching a film and being able to tell what's happening while you're shooting the film while you're watching a film is two totally different experiences. It's like, it's not fun.
No. And the amount of times you are so certain something's going to work in the moment, whether it's on set, whether it's writing the script, whether it's like in the edit, the amount of times you're like, it's perfect. This is exactly what we need. And you don't need it. And people are like, kind of feels like filler. Kind of feels like needless. And the other things you're like, I just kind of feels perfunctory. I just got to get through it. Other people are like, my favorite sequence of the movie. And it really, you just start to refine that kind of like forward thinking that you have on a film because you never know. And you can only like trust your instincts and trust your gut thinking, I've been here before. I've gotten reactions before. And it feels right to me. And the more it feels right to me, the more I know it'll feel right later. And you just start to refine that kind of like critical kind of analysis that you need to start to build. It's a hard tool. And this is why like every big director's advice is just keep making stuff so you can keep developing that kind of like tool.
Well, it's the same YouTube advice too. It's just make videos, just make them. Stop talking about it. Stop making plans. Literally, just make them. Because especially when it comes to creativity and things like that, it's all about the process. And keep doing that process over and over and again until it clicks. And it will never click. That's the fun part. It just doesn't click.
And it's terrifying. It's like especially creative endeavors are such an extension of who you are as a person. And you're literally on YouTube or like in audiences, you're presenting that to people to break down and critique, which is breaking down you. That's something you are like, my whole life I've been dreaming to make a movie or make a video, and I put it out to the internet and the world, and they're like, kind of lame. It sucks. It's heartbreaking. Getting bad notes for the first time, I literally almost threw up just because I was like, no, I was so certain in my head this is what I wanted to do. And it's once you understand, that's a very small part of the process.
It's so funny because like I play the guitar, whatever, I perform, whatever, right? But whenever I get bad notes and someone like gives me advice, you're like, I appreciate this advice, but you don't want to take it. Because it's still, I have a really hard time separating the art and the artist because the artist is in the art. You just have to look for it. But it is sometimes, I've had people like come out of the films I've made and said, wow, I can't, like, that's such a great meaning that you put behind this, or that theme was so well pronounced. And I'm like, I did not think about that at all. And it is the weird thing of sometimes the art takes a life of its own outside of kind of the intention behind it. That doesn't mean you don't remove like the decision making behind it and kind of like creative influences that went into it. But that's the weird subjectivity about art, is just that it just kind of grows by itself. And you're like, I didn't mean for it to like have that impact, but it did. Or I thought it would, and it didn't. Sucks to be me. Yeah, it's Mark Roberge of OAR, one of my favorite bands, had this conversation. He goes, I make a piece of art to reflect what I'm feeling, but I know it's going to reflect different for other people. So like the song Love and Memories, like for him, it was like about a breakup, yet getting back together and understand that. But for some people, it's just a straight breakup song. For some people, it's just a straight love song. And it's like one of those things that you can watch a horror movie and be like, yo, this is a reflection of this. But someone else in the other is like, no, this is really dark. This is awful. Why do I feel this? So, but you moved to LA after coming home, right? Was this after? Is this when you moved to LA?
No. I coming home, I made my sophomore year at school, and then I still had junior and senior year.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was all in Rochester. No, I made coming home. It was okayly received. Like for me, I'm like, this is my magnum opus. I'm making, this brilliant film. And then it just, I don't know, didn't get anywhere. Next semester, I took an experimental class where I made just this like kind of like visually poetic kind of film that I'm still really proud of. And I'm excited to get that one out there more. I'm doing a few projects on the side now that I'll talk about when we get there. But that film, it's called Aquarius, was so like creatively fulfilling in a way, just because I don't know. It's every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't know why I thought of that, but I'm happy I did because it felt kind of like fluid in a way that student films aren't. Then I made The Selection, which is based on Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. If anyone's read it, if you've gone to middle school or high school, that one's just about like a family in a small town that holds a ritual every year where someone has to be ritually sacrificed, and it's about the main son of this family being chosen and being like handcuffed to the attic and like his reaction to being sacrificed and all that. And that was another film, the same kind of class that I made coming home. It's like a 10-minute, 20-minute little fiction. And I kept making these different films that were either horror movies or like these dramas about death or like these things. Cut to my thesis, which is about siblings dealing with the death of their father. And not to get too dramatic and not to like derail your show, but like, my father passed away when I was 16. And like, yeah.
You didn't, this is news to me. This is the second time. This is the second time on this show out of 5 episodes where I've learned about a death in someone like else's life that I just did not know about.
Because why would it come up? And like, why would like people like, hi, I'm Patrick, nice to meet you. My dad died. Like, and also I like tangerines. Like, it's,
I love tangerines. Great, but great movie, by the way.
I still need to see it, and I really need to see Florida Project.
Florida Project, far superior, but like
Sean Baker is his name.
Sean Baker is incredible. That movie makes me so sad because I've driven past like where it's located and like the Orlando housing issue and the class divide there. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No. But it hits you in that likeness. It's dude, that's movies. Like I know people who are like didn't connect to it, and then there are people from Florida who are like,
this is what happens. I've seen
got it right. Yep. But it is like, that was in the middle of high school. It was very defining for like me and my family. And, we moved on, we adapted, we like matured as people very quickly, especially as kids.
You have to.
Yeah. And it wasn't until like I got to school and met people outside my normal like social circle and made all these films and got to my thesis film, which was like my third idea. Like I wrote multiple drafts of 2 different scripts before I settled on this one. And then a friend of mine was like, you really like making movies about death? And I'm like, no, I don't. Oh my God, I do. Oh my God. I'm processing stuff. Oh my God. And like hit me like a ton of bricks of just a revelation. And it made, the idea of me doing horror movies make so much sense. Right. Because, those are films about people dealing with grief. And those are films about people dealing with kind of, what at that time in my life felt like an obstacle I would not be able to get past. And when I made Coming Home, it very much was inspired by The Babadook, if you've ever seen it, which is
I've seen parts of it. I am afraid to watch that movie.
It's more contemplative than you think it'll be, because it's not just about a spooky monster. It's about like a mother dealing with the death of her husband. And it's again, like something that I consciously didn't kind of pick up on, but like my brain and my like creative juices were like, oh, let this influence you. This is kind of something to remember going forward. And so I made the senior film, Sherman, and then I made one more film because I was like, I hate myself enough to give myself more work, which is about it's called Freight. All these films are on my Vimeo if anyone wants to see them.
Hopefully it works. Shout out.
Yeah, to today. They were being jerks today. Shout out to Vimeo. And my last film, which I made my last semester as an independent study, which means I went to the faculty and I'm like, hey, I want to make a movie, and they have to approve it. And they were like, yeah, okay, you're a senior, you're fine. It's about a guy taking an elevator up to the top floor of a building to jump off when the elevator gets jammed right before the last floor, and he's like stuck inside of it with all these kind of like emotions in his head. Yeah. I play the guy. It's a very silent film. There's barely any dialogue, and I just was like, we had this big freight elevator, which I'm like, this will be a beautiful location. Let me shoot in it. This is a long-winded answer to say no, I didn't go to LA right after coming home, but like these years were very formative in like figuring out my creative voice and like trying different films and like, I
definitely have to go back to it because the Sherman piece I'm really interested about. Now for obvious reasons. Oh, doggos, we love to see it.
That's our little Chihuahua Jose. I'll make sure he
Chihuahua?
It's his birthday today.
Oh, so that's why he's so loud.
He's cute. He's easily frightened, but also is like, I could take you. And you're like, I could punt you like across the fence. Like, wouldn't be a problem.
Are evil. Chihuahuas are evil.
This one's pretty cute.
Okay. See, so the only reason I say that was I have a scar on my hand from when a Chihuahua bit me when I was like 7.
Where is it? Okay. I don't know if you can see it. On this hand, there's a little dotted scar.
Yeah.
That is from a sparkler that like burned, created a blister scar. And then years later, there was a Rottweiler fighting with my dog in my backyard that I like got in between, and it bit this hand. Where is it? And like it's hard to see, but there's a similar like dotted scar.
Yeah.
So now I have like matching scars on my hands, one from a vicious dog and the other from a vicious sparkler. That's a fact for people. Sorry, Evan. I feel like I'm derailing you.
No, I derail. That's kind of my thing. You know this. I just derail things.
It's half the fun here. Says the Babadook is incredible.
I know. I see that. Also, apparently we look similar. I don't know how I feel about that. It's like
I'll take it. I gotta like my hair. I decided to wear a button up, a very thick kind of like woolish button up. Yeah. It is so hot in this room, and my hair is gonna start like falling down from sweat. I may detour to grab a shirt, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Do we see Pat Hogue strip on camera? Maybe he's done it before. Do we know?
We got a Streamlab.
We have a Streamlab.
You want to
$20?
$20. Okay. Every button goes down.
Hey, $20 is like 8 days of weed. So
I'm in. I mean, I'm here to support whatever we need to support.
Anyways, so do you go straight from Rochester to LA? Or are you like, screw it, we're doing it?
To move to LA?
Yeah. Or did you get a job first?
No. What? So that was an adventure. That was basically with minor exception of a couple people. A lot of people stayed in Rochester.
Yeah.
A lot of people went to New York City, and the others went to LA. And from RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology, I did an internship between my junior and senior year where I came out to LA, interned at like a production company, read a lot of scripts for them, did coverage and all that.
Yeah.
And just kind of met all the graduates who came out here. So there was like a safe bubble that once we knew that if we went out to LA, we'd be okay with like contacts and all that. So we all like me and 4 other friends who I graduated with all packed into cars and drove 7 days across the country. Yeah. And we had a house lined up when we started that trip. And then halfway through, we lost it. They gave it to someone else. So we're on the way to LA without a place to live, constantly trying to figure out on what was supposed to be a fun, adventurous trip, stressed out of our minds, trying to find a place to live, get here, stay on the few couches of friends we knew. And I remember eating like a $5 breakfast at Denny's with 2 of my roommates being like, we just made the worst decision of our lives. This is what have we done? And then our other roommate calls us like, hey, we found a house. And just went there. They were like, you're college kids, but we'll take you. Come on in. Like, we'll trust you. A friend of mine worked at a visual effects company called MPC, Moving Picture Company. They did like The Lion King, Detective Pikachu, like these fun kind of big special effects movies. And I was a runner. It was my first job in LA. I didn't have a car. So this is all just kind of like to give you my context of what moving out to LA is like for a budding filmmaker.
No, honest to God though, like you not getting a house and losing your house sounds like the most LA thing ever. Like it's so on brand.
It's the cherry on top of the shit sundae. It's beautiful. And it's like, I came out, didn't have a car, which turns out you kind of need one in LA.
You can't subway everywhere.
No. You can try. Not going to work.
Not going to work.
And then I did this interview. They're like, oh, you need a car. My friend who got me the interview was like, I thought you had one. My bad. But they hired me and they were like, if you get a car in 2 weeks, you can work here. And I said, okay, I don't have any money because I just spent it to get out here, but I'll try. Went to Toyota. They were like, we have a deal for recent graduates where you don't need to pay a down payment. And like, you know, we'll sign you to a lease. I was like, fine, 3-year lease with a huge like monthly payment. Cool. Yeah. They were like, we'll give you this car if you get insurance. I'm like, great. All the stuff I've never done before. I'll do that though. I called Nationwide and was like, hey, will you give me insurance so I can get a car? And they were like, yeah. Send all your info. And then at that time, my license was suspended because of an unpaid speeding ticket from years ago, which I have since gotten resolved. So cops don't come for me. But Nationwide was like, we're not giving you insurance, you idiot. You suck. No one would ever give you insurance because they hate you.
Yeah, they're like, it makes sense. I don't know if I give you insurance.
No. Then I went to Progressive and they're like, yeah, we'll give you insurance. But it literally was like this. I needed to get this insurance to keep the car, to keep the job, to keep the house, to justify me moving my entire life to LA. And this happened within the span of a week.
Oh yeah. There's no sleeping then.
Dude, I had ulcers when I was younger in my life, like literal holes burned into my stomach because I was just a stressed out kid. This was the closest I ever gotten to that. And I remember after that week just being like, okay, I survived. Going to Rite Aid to get like $50 for like the internet installation in our house. And I didn't even have that much, like I didn't have $50 in my account. And I just remember going to the Rite Aid parking lot and calling my mom, crying my eyes out of, I just made the worst mistake. Everything, I don't know what I'm doing. Everything sucks. Everything's horrible. And she was like, you know, my mom has 6 other kids to deal with. So she's like, very much, if you move to LA, you got to figure it out. But she was like, I'm going to give you $200. Don't worry about it. First thing I want you to do is go buy a coffee. Do something nice for yourself. Pay off this bill. Breathe. That was the worst moment since I've moved out to LA. And every other like stressful time, every other time like something has seemed impossible or like undoable, I've thought back to that, like Rite Aid, calling my mom with like tears in my eyes because I just made the worst decision. It's, I don't want to say it's worth it, but you really start to understand the more time you spend in LA, the trial by fire that kind of everybody goes through. And once you make it through that, you feel like an initiation of,
we're here.
Okay, I got this.
Yeah.
Whew.
So what was your job at that special effects company then?
Garbage boy. I was a runner, which is very much the ubiquitous term for office bitch. You take out the trash, you do the dishes, you order everybody lunch. It is the most unglamorous job.
It's a real thing. I didn't realize it was a real thing.
Totally. But it's, especially for there, which a lot of the other runners really wanted to get into visual effects, perfect first step. Like really, and like most of them who I worked with are working at the company as visual effects artists and like have now gotten awards because of movies that have gotten like, you know, awards for their work. But for someone like me who didn't want to do visual effects, it really did feel like, what am I doing here? And then there was one day where a producer named Todd, a very nice guy, he was like one of the head executives, but would always like chat with you, be very nice and cordial. Could just tell I was just in one of those funks. Like, this was like month 3. I was just like not having it. He said, Pat, sit down. I said, okay, am I fired? Something is about to happen. And, you know, he was like, no, what's going on? And I vented my frustration. And he said something that I have yet to forget, where he said, I get how it seems, but appreciate the simplicity. Right now, your only job is to take out the trash. And he said it in the least condescending way. And it really, like, even at that moment, it made sense of where I want to get to, and the amount of like high profile, like creative people I've met look miserable a lot of the time. One, because their decisions affect so many people, and two, the level of responsibility in their hands is unfathomable. Mine was taking out the trash. Right. And it really like put into that, like that mindset of, yeah, one, I got to start somewhere. And this is where I start. And two, I'm not going gray. I'm not looking like one of those guys. And then after like 3 months, I quit that job because my friend was like, I'll get you on a feature film as like a grip for, and what was supposed to be an 18-day shoot for $100 a day went into a 33-day shoot for $100 a day. But it got me another feature in Kentucky with John Voight, which is the movie I worked on. And then started doing freelance until I hopped over to Bune & Murray as an office production assistant, which led to me working on Total Divas, Total Bellas. This is the least interesting part of like my journey to LA, of like all these different jobs I've worked. But I love my time at Bune & Murray, which is a reality TV place. They make a lot of big shows. And then in the middle of that, after like 2 years, I'm like, I need to make something. And then so started to come around. But that's the journey to LA of like trial by fire, thinking that every paycheck, every bill, everything was the last it was going to be, and that was it. I was going to die. But 3 years later, and they still haven't gotten me.
I know. Look at them. Look at you fighting through LA. I think what's interesting about that place is it never stops. We talk about like, people say New York City never sleeps. Sometimes that place sleeps. Like I lived through there, and like that place lets you relax. I never get the idea that LA lets you relax. You are always going.
I've had to pick up, like, one of my big jobs at my last company was either picking up equipment from LAX with crews that were coming in, or dropping off equipment. And sometimes there would be really early flights, like at like 2 a.m. And even then, as soon as you get to LAX, it's packed and everything's going on. But there is that slight sliver of like when you come out of your house and you're just driving on the streets and you and maybe one other person, you're like, LA doesn't look like this. It's constant movement. Even now, when there's a literal pandemic and the world is supposed to be shut down, I see people just like, like Santa Monica is out doing its thing, and West Hollywood is just full of people. The city does not slow down, and it's very disconcerting and exhausting sometimes.
So then what do you do to like try and detox or relax yourself? Because personally speaking, like whenever like, you go to make a movie, or when I was making movies not too long ago, I would not want to watch a movie after being on set all day or doing something like that. I would just want to like. So then what is your moment of zen? How do you get those moments?
Video games. I love video games. I'm bad at watching movies, and I'm a pretty sociable person. I can be awkward, clearly.
Yeah, we all are.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Some more than others. I'm looking at you. I'm trying to think of who of our group I could call awkward, but they all just seemed like mean options. Nah, Evan, you're a social butterfly. What are you talking about?
I fucking wish, dude. You know how I wonder what it's like to be a social butterfly, but also realize that you are one, and like be cognizant enough to like take advantage of that. If that makes what I'm saying?
No, totally. This is a topic of success in this industry in the city, is that element of like self-awareness and kind of how do you fit in, like what is your contribution. Like you have to break down your personality and your being into like a stat sheet and see what can I fill up for this group over here that I need to like co-sign with, but my brain also works a little logistically and a little analytically, so it like breaks down kind of stuff that shouldn't be broken down into stats sometimes. But no, I have a pretty positive, upbeat energy about me.
Yeah.
Like I get exhausted, I get very tired, and for that I just like to veg out. And in these first, like, that's the hardest part I think about making a movie sometimes, is that you have to be ready to be alert at all times, because a question might come in, or a problem might come up that you need to address, and it's within kind of a window of time, but that window could be a couple months to just like a few days. And it's for someone who really like values their alone time and the ability just to like hang and watch a movie, or like play a game, or just literally go for a walk. And this is also the first time in my life I've had a room to myself. I want to reiterate, I've had 6 siblings. So
that's something I didn't know either. Which it makes sense. I think most families with a lot of siblings end up being looser, not in a bad way, but a lot like looser with how discipline or things like that come along, or the choices their children make isn't as tight.
And my parents were super supportive, like in every aspect. They're very firm, very fair, very like disciplinary. Of you won't get away with shit, but like you want to make YouTube videos, okay, like we'll watch them and make sure like, okay, you're not like being a Nazi online, but you're being creative and you're trying new things. And my mom letting me go to film school, and my mom, it's all credit to her, and she's a incredible mother. And I had a big speech after my thesis went up where I like thanked her, and I cried, and it was emotional, and like she cried. It was great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But it literally, like, part of it is, hey mom, can I go to LA? And she's like, what? I got like 6 kids. Yeah, go to LA. I don't care. Like, get out of here. Like, seriously, I have too many people right now.
Talk to you right now.
Yeah. It's that element of she trusts me, which means I kind of have to trust her, that if I make a mistake, she's not going to lambaste me for it, but she's not going to like not hold my feet to the fire. It's a weird balance that multiple sibling families kind of have to get into.
Because I have one brother. I think it's once you break 3. Once you have like 3 siblings, that's when that dynamic comes in. My mom was always like, 2 kids, 2 arms. That's it. Like, I get that. Whatever.
No head, though. Just an amorphous blob. From inside, if anyone's played that game.
So then, after we're done talking about that, we move on to So. This is your project, your specifically project that is out currently. It's on Crypt TV. There we go. It's on Crypt TV, and the feedback for it was really good. Yeah, the comments love that movie. They really fucking dig it.
It's there's some comments I've expected of just like sad. It was just like depression porn, or like no one died. That spoilers for So. I feel like we're gonna talk about it. Like, it's on Crypt TV, a very popular horror YouTube channel. It's on my Vimeo. It's available online. Go watch it. Right. We're spoiling it here. Yeah, no, dude, it's kind of wild just because there's a part of me that kind of wants to treat it as precious, who is very like, my experience at film school, my experience of being creative has been very much a learning experience in trusting others, because I made YouTube videos by myself. Like, I did everything. I wrote it, I directed, I got, like,
I don't know what a YouTube video is, so
it's this higher form of art.
Okay,
you'll come around. Okay. But basically it was kind of self-monitored by me to like put all the pieces together. And going through film school, you learn not only want to relinquish responsibility of, okay, you can set up the camera, or like you can choose to do what you want with your performance, I guess, but then truly understanding of like, oh, I'm not, my ideas are very rarely the best version of that idea. Like, I'll have the inception of the story, the script, but it's filtering it through my art director, filtering it through my makeup person, actors, and like really bringing a collection of minds together to get this. And I feel like So is so emblematic of like that film came out so well just because I was able to kind of like step out of the way and let so many people give their input and like be kind of, you know, really integral into the conception of the film. And it's weird. I've seen reaction videos to it, and like that first night, there's like 3 so far I found online. I've been a little obsessed trying to find like what I can around but like a couple people have reacted to it, and it's those like little tinges of stuff you've always dreamed about, like when you make movies, of you see a trailer reaction, you're like, oh, I can't wait until someone reacts to my trailer.
It's time code 746. That's the one that I saw. That's the one where it's time code 746.
Oh, the moment in the movie. Yeah. No, it's and so weird to me because like what we talk about, and you know, this is a thing when you have no objectivity when it comes to your own art. By the time I was done with that movie, and this happens with every single one, I'm like, just get it out. I'm excited for people to see it, but I'm seriously done with this thing. And then people say they like it, and you're like, oh,
woo,
I didn't. Right. We're doing this for a reason, right? No, because we want people to see this, and that's an aspect of filmmaking that I have yet to really excel at and be good at, is treating it as a product as much as a piece of art. Because I feel like my intuitions are marketable. I want to make horror movies that have like iconic monsters and have like set pieces and dramatic moments. But I also don't know how to be confident and sell it about myself. And so I'm waiting for that true producerial mindset to either set in on me, or I can find someone else who's like really good at it. And they're like, cool, sell my stuff. Like you take it. But, no, a friend of mine worked for Crypt TV, and she was like, there's nothing I can do, but there's a submission page. They might like it. I thought it was good. I said, okay. I submitted it. And then one of their like development people reached out and said, can we put this on the channel? And I was like, yeah, sure.
Why not?
I was really scared to do that because, you know, I wanted to submit it to film festivals, and sometimes they can be very touchy about like, wait, where's this been seen before? But I've also done that with my student films. And again, that takes money to really like kind of put into it. And that takes like a lot of kind of like, there's no guarantee that they'll accept it. And, you know, there's a lot of factors that you're kind of gambling with. And I thought at the very least, Crypt TV says they want it. They have a channel with over 3 million subscribers. At this point, I think to be not very precious and let just people see it is kind of the most like the smartest thing I can do with it. And since then, it's just been the greatest confidence boost, which is such a thing you need as an artist to like, as much as it's about self-satisfaction, having other people be like, I like that, is so nice. And it's so gratifying to, and like this experience with Crypt TV has been so gratifying in that of seeing, okay, I can like submit something and, you know, not have it, you know, tarred and feathered and dragged through the streets for being like, oh, this kid doesn't know what to do with it. Right. It's a hard lesson to learn when you're making movies, because when you first start out, you're just assembling shots, and you don't know if you're making a mosaic that's like a collection of all these different things, or if you're making a Jackson Pollock painting that's just kind of a scatter shot of colors. Like those have a bit more intent to them, but when you start out, you don't really make movies, you make an assemblage of images. And to have like see the critique be more about story and be more about kind of grander things than just it didn't make sense, or like just felt too slow. Right. It means to me that, okay, there is a emotional core there that means that the sum is greater than the parts itself, which is nice.
For sure.
I think that answered a question.
No, I think especially the big difference between So and Coming Home was the fact it felt more theatrical almost. Like more immersive, rather than just like pointing the camera at something. It's like you're using the camera to tell a story at this point. Especially, I think it was that last scene with the husband, and I won't say wife. And I texted you, I'm like, the costuming, you've done it again. Because I for some reason I pay attention to costuming and kind of like how it portrays figures and whatnot. Because I think the main character was wearing this really dark, faded out blue sweater. While as he's been jarred, this man has seen the shit. He is compressing himself, and blue is usually a color meant for like depression or feeling cool. But cool can also mean like you're feeling cool as in like relaxed or laid back, but also like you're feeling blue. And then she comes in with this orange nursing suit, which shows her ignorance to the whole situation. I don't know if you paid attention to that or whatever. I just thought that like it's the small things like that kind of build up to making something seem grander,
No, it's really funny because you don't know what's going to be important and what people are going to pick up on. And so it's better to kind of it's all you start with the script as a blueprint of mainly the room I'm in right now is the nursery. Like this is my bedroom. This is where the monster confronts Paul, the main character. And mainly there's one shot where it pans over it and you see a little name plaque that says Caleb on it.
Right.
And that was something my art director, Irena Weaver, very talented, came up to me and said, like, can I put this together? This seems like a good idea. I'm like, oh yeah, like have a ubiquity to the room. And that really tied together kind of because he mentions the name later. And since we had like a visual indication, it kind of helps connect the two, which is a thing that had a lot of thought behind it and a lot of intent, but kind of came of the moment. That nurse gown was supposed to be pink. And it got to set. And I'm like, why is this orange? And they're like, it's all they had. And that sweater we bought the day before when I flew my actor in from Denmark. We went to Target. And I bought him.
You an actor from Denmark.
Pardon me, I'm drinking this cactus cooler, delicious drink. It's giving me gas.
Okay.
As I talk eloquently about art. Actor Morten Holst. That first freelance feature I did that I worked on, he was the main actor. I was just like a lowly grip, but we hit it off so well that at some point he was like, I'd work with you if he knew I wanted to direct. And I said, I wrote the script. If I fly you out, will you act in it? And he's like, yeah. And he stayed at my place. But we bought that sweater and those like the sweatpants he wears when he's being chased at night at Target the day before. But it is that thing of this movie has been like stimulating or like gestating in my mind for so long that he couldn't wear a bright costume. That wouldn't make sense. And he has the blue button up throughout the whole thing. Not. What's that?
I said obviously not. That just wouldn't make sense.
But it is funny of just that what you picked up on wasn't a conscious choice, but very much in my mind of they had to be contrasted in that way. And him having the blue sweater and her like seeing that the nightgown was like orange and not pink. This is where like a lot of newer directors be like, it has to be. It was the vision for it to be pink. The contrasting color to blue is orange. Yeah. And so, having that scene takes place in the morning. And so she is the sunlight to come into this room. She's the golden ray, and he is like the night of dawn, the darkness, like still like receding. And these little things you don't think about until, you put it together.
But here's the good thing is you can take that and what you learned from Stowe and obviously like even those smaller things you carry with you and realizing, this is the way how I can use imagery for the future.
1000%. And you just you get a sense of what will work. And again, that's what we were talking about earlier of just, that's why you just got to keep making things, because the earlier you start asking those questions of kind of what the kind of film it is, those other pieces just fall into place with your instincts of costuming, art direction. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's design you got to do. We did concept art for the movie where we like did different costumes and stuff, and a lot of stuff with the monster that didn't turn out the way we were thinking, but we rolled with it in a way to make it really work. And it's, if you notice in the movie, he only has one hand that has like the spiky fingers. He was supposed to have two. The effect to get those fingers spiky took hours, literal hours. And we were like running out of time to, but we're like, okay, let's just shoot it where he only interacts with one hand. And it just works, as opposed to art directing every room to make it like look lived in and like look like a house. There's just, you have a balance of wins and losses. But if you know what the movie is in your head, like those little accidents of their costumes just kind of work out. And you only get that by making movies and understanding kind of in the future, looking back, what did you regret not having? And then knowing in that moment, okay, we're going to regret if we don't have this. Get it now.
Yeah. Also, what's up, Ferris? We are live currently. Probably be live for maybe another 30 minutes. Who knows where this is gonna go? And we were just talking about Pat Hogue's film. So it's on Crypt TV. It's directly how it sounds. And also, you could just look up Pat Hogue and then SEW, and it'll show up on YouTube as well.
I'm not the meth dealer from Ohio.
That'd be great though. What a better story that would be. Like honestly, like the backstory would be so more interesting.
I really hope someone has to write my obituary and has to do research and they've never met me and they find that and they're like, it's got to be him. And so they start telling he was a complicated man, made a lot of poor decisions. And then the whole family and friends are like, did Pat have like a meth ring that we didn't know about?
Did Pat move to LA? Did he?
And then I come out of the coffin like 420 and then I go back to die. That was the stupidest thing I've ever said in my life, Evan. Okay. Why are you interviewing me?
If you want to be interviewed, you hit me up and you're like, let's do this interview. I'm like, okay, that works.
You could have said no. You didn't have to do it. Look at me. I'm a white guy. I have no influence.
But you're trying. That's what matters.
Yes, Ferris, Pat the Canadian is a director.
I know. And you're trying to make an influence and you're trying to make films that people can at least relate to on some sort of a level.
And I have a lot of ideas that I'm trying to write. This quarantine has been very successful in that I've written a feature, my second feature. That's a first draft, and it's rough, but this one I'm really excited to like refine because it's this is the only tease I'll give, but it's a horror movie that's kind of Hereditary meets Memento. And so it's very Catholic ritual based and has a lot of the same kind of like horror themes as so.
Also, anyone out there that doesn't understand, writing a feature is a project. It's like celebrating even just writing a feature, which may never show up, is still something that you should celebrate. That is a feat on itself.
But it's doable. And it really is, if for me, and I'll share a little, I have different ways of my process. Like this notebook is filled with an entire feature outline that I'm going to type up at some point and make into an actual movie. But like it's illustrations, it's different like kind of concept art. I really like to storyboard, but I'll do little storyboards. Let me find one. I got one in here. I got one, Evan. Don't freak out. Evan, I need you to calm down. It's in here, but like this little like packed thing is that's a feature, and it took a year to just kind of dawdle. Or this one took just a couple months just to sit down day by day, write 2 pages.
Just grind. You just fucking go.
And it's work, and it really is like as much as you want inspiration to hit you,
it doesn't.
It really can. And you can't rely on it. And it very much is the best ideas come from 20 bad ideas. And it's, all of my thesis, Sherman, took 40 drafts to get to a filmable state. And even then we had to write more after the first semester. And you just kind of learn that of just, it's not, the geniuses aren't geniuses because they do it on the first time. The geniuses are geniuses because they know what it takes and they work hard, and that it's going to take 7 drafts. And I'm excited for this feature, but I've yet to truly do a second draft to a feature, which intimidates me because that is a different beast than a short, just because that is so many moving parts. And if you change one, it just like trickles down the entire line. I forget how we got on this tangent, but that's the next big thing that I'm writing and working on. Quarantine, what we're using time and all this. It's actually, no, I lost it. Evan, what are we talking about?
We're gonna move on. You have to preface this because I can only say so much and you can only say so much, but you are in a film.
Yes. I'm in a couple coming out, but this one is actually done. This one, as I like to do to set up my stories, I like to give a long, winding backstory. I acted in my school musicals. And also, I went into the film school with a very stupid idea of, oh, this is how I break into acting. If I act in student films in upstate New York, in Rochester, that'll clearly start my career as a major movie actor. No, that's not how it works. That's not the industry. But it very much, like, I started school thinking, oh, I'll act in my films, I'll act in other people's films, and I'll just like show people how good I am. And I kind of sucked. I was pretty bad. And it, you know, when you're acting, you really go through that kind of like those breakthrough moments of, one, the responsibility you have if you're in a film of being literally the face of it. Right. Two, it's hard, and people who do it well really deserve kind of the praise because of like the vulnerability you have from it. And three, when I really figured out I wanted to be more of a director, acting became so invaluable because of, if you want to be a good director, you need to know how to act. And you need to like understand that process, because it's all about creating an environment. It's all about creating a trust, and it's all about, you know, you want to like be confident when speaking to just saw Ferris's comment. Thank you, Ferris. I want to make fun of my whiteness as much as possible, but understanding that I have a responsibility to do good in this world and make sure I give, you know.
It's just because you're freaking Irish.
Hey, oh, shimalele, the sack of potatoes.
Also, on that note, Michael K donated $17.11, saying he would love to see Pats become the first David F. Sundberg. I don't know who that is.
Dude. First, Mike, thank you. Awesome. Appreciate you. David F. Sandberg. He made Lights Out, then Annabelle Creation, and Shazam. But he's a huge YouTuber. Like, he started on YouTube. He made horror shorts. He and then Lights Out he made a short called Lights Out, and it became viral. That got him the movie. But he still does YouTube tutorials. He still does like really insightful videos. He's called Pony Smasher. Find him on YouTube. His videos, he talks a lot about the mentality of what it goes into making big movies, making Hollywood movies. And it's so insightful. And for someone like me, he seems like such a chill, down-to-earth guy that like that's what I aspire to, of just somebody who can have the success but keep the perspective of what it means. Right. But I acted in school, transitioned more to directing, and then I made and I acted in some things in school I felt pretty proud of, more towards the end of it when I was like taking it a little bit more seriously. Yeah. And acting in like other projects that my friend Eva Marie Choma, her film, which should be somewhere online. If not, I will yell at her. It's called Fight Shy, where I'm the star of, and it's a very complex little movie. Her Vimeo should have her other films. Eva Marie Choma. She's the most talented writer I know. All of my scripts go through her. Please go check out her films, because I think she's going to be bigger than anyone will give her credit for. But did so, and I was really like, okay, I made something. I directed something. I'm excited to get it out there. I kind of want to act. Like, yeah, you get that itch. I got that like little just kind of like buzz from inside of myself that is hard to describe. And it's, you know, I was in LA for 2 years, and I always thought, I can't pursue acting. Everybody does that. That's not worth it. Oh, you have to. And I didn't have an agent. I don't have an agent. Somebody represent me, please. But I went to Hollywood Casting and Film. And I'm on Backstage now, which are 2 like online, you can check audition postings. And this film came up, the script for a film called Good Guy with a Gun, written by Brian Tyler Montgomery Jr. I went in, I read the script. I thought, as someone who writes a lot, I thought this is a great script. And you see a lot of those. And I'll preface it because the movie's done. It's going to come out, but it's still in the festival circuit. So I'm not certain how much we can get into like talking about it. But I wanted to share it with you, Evan, just so like we could have a little dialogue, because I'm excited about it. But I auditioned. I met the film is about an incel, and it's told through a kind of unreliable narrator who I play, who gets a gun and wants to feel empowered by society, and like It has a lot of messages on its mind, has a lot of things to say about incel culture, about masculinity, or about society and kind of our perception of what is justified and what is righteous. And I thought this script is great. It's going to take a hell of a director to pull it off. Met Brian in the audition. I'm like, okay, this guy's got it. Like he's so well articulate. He's the nicest guy in the world. And I just auditioned twice, got the role, and then we made the movie. And he made a previous movie, which I might be online, but I know it got into festivals, called Chickens, which is about police unjustly killing a black man in a restaurant. But he very much deals in that kind of social issue, social horror kind of mentality. And it literally was the first thing I auditioned for in LA. First role I got, first film I shot. Was an incredible experience, and was just kind of like, I showed him early versions of So as he was editing Good Guy with a Gun, this film, which he showed me. And I just, I'll give you, like, I'm not objective to it. And so I've been showing like a couple people within a little circle, so I don't like spoil it for the world, but I wanted to share it with you, Evan. And I don't know, you said you liked it.
I'm trying to like hold my words because I don't know how much I can say. It's incredible. It is flooring. And I think it's due to the tone and the pacing of it. I think that's what got me, because something that I think separates smaller films from even the bigger films is there's definitely a tone behind it, and there's a different style. The style was there. I'm like, wait, I could watch this in a theater and actually pay money for this. It's that moment of levity where you realize, oh, I could actually like pay money to watch this. And I got that. And then also your performance in it too. You were hardly recognizable because it's not you.
I'm glad I can.
It was rough. It was rough watching it.
I have this has been released, so I can share it. But this is the poster, which we did an official shoot for. My reflection of my. Well, my camera's reflecting, my screen's reflecting it, but if you can see it, it's my face looking all creepy and whatnot with the title, Good Guy with a Gun. And I told you this story before we went on air, but I went home for Christmas and I showed it to my brothers because my mom wants to be very supportive and see all my stuff. But I was like, this one might be a little too intense for you. Yeah. And I showed it to my brothers and I asked, can I show it to mom? They're like, no. You can't do that. But that's when I'm very happy once it starts like actually getting a release, and even like if it's buzzing in like film festivals, which it will be, I think. And not to take a cheap shot, but it's also due to the nature of the film and what it's talking about. It's gonna get buzz. That is such an interesting consideration, because reading the script, talking to Brian, and like we had tons of discussions about this, what you're talking about, tone, and how dangerous can we get? How much can we depict these acts without spoiling anything?
We haven't said anything yet.
Every decision was made with like consideration.
Yeah, it has to be.
We finished shooting and we were editing when the first trailers for Joker came out, which is kind of like the analogous for what we were thinking while making it. And so our fear was, this comes out long after Joker, it's going to be, oh, you're just a Joker ripoff. Whereas we made this long before even the trailers for Joker came out. So it just kind of shows this is just kind of what's going on in society that we wanted to spotlight a little bit.
Also, this is a really good lesson. This is a really good lesson for anyone in Hollywood. If you see a film that comes out within 5 years of another film, they might have been done at the same time. It's very true. I would like, we talk about DC movies to MC movies, they might have taken inspiration, but like it's hard to prove those things because films are released and they're made at completely different times. And even I think there's a film that even when you take something like Whiplash or Black Swan, when Black Swan came out like 08, Whiplash came out 14.
Yeah.
Chazelle might have had that script done by then, or that short film even by then. And so it's just a good lesson for everyone to learn that yes, inspiration might have, but let's not hit the director too hard for either copying or something like that.
It's the thing that a film is usually popular because it's hitting on something that is occurring in society. There's an
Right.
energy there, and you can't help but be creatively influenced by what you're surrounded by. So if one person is, influenced by what is ubiquitous in society, you're going to see that elsewhere as well. It's about where do you put the emphasis, compared to Joker, which, again, I won't spoil much about Good Guy with a Gun, which I'm excited for people to see whenever it comes out.
Dude.
It's that thing that Joker is much more about, like, the righteous vengeance of society, where we are a bit more condemning of kind of a character of that ideology.
I think a lot of it's point of view too, and I think
Yes,
you guys did a much better job of working on how you can actually use that point of view and show the instincts of the character. And that's as far as I'm gonna go.
All that credit has to go to the director, Brian, and the DP, Connor Heck, who's super talented. Check out his Connor Heck DP is his Instagram. You can see he's made music videos with Terry Crews, so he's cooler than me. He, ironically, if you've ever seen that Tommy Wiseau, the Joker sketch where he's in the interrogation room and they're recreating it from The Dark Knight, it's kind of a popular YouTube video. RDP shot that, so there's a little bit of a connective tissue there, but no, that's man, funny. It's the weird. This is kind of like a state that it's hard to describe for creatives to other people, in that making something is only half the battle. The act of producing it's a big battle and it's huge, but there is such a mind share for attention, and there is such kind of another battle ahead of you about spreading the message of what you're doing, that it's you, and you can't predict that. That's the hard part.
What's funny about that part to me, though, because I think you know this, but I could be wrong. I want to produce. That's my shtick, because I like helping other people create, and I want to make sure that their creation gets seen in all the right ways, in the most efficient ways too. Because a film should be in the film circuit market, but for how long, and why should it be in there for that long while that's happening? So I just think it's funny that you're the creative and I'm the no. We got to make sure that we get this done on time, on budget.
And it's that weird balance through all things of, I want to make what I want to make, and I do, one of my jobs is doing coverage on studio scripts that I get sometimes.
I wanted to bring that up. I didn't know if I was allowed to.
You're allowed to. I won't say what company, but I read a lot of Hollywood scripts that come through, and I kind of, basically, I'm not the one to approve it or like kind of dismiss it, but I give a perspective of somebody who's trying to be critical about it. And one of the elements you have to be critical about is, even if you love the script, if you think it's incredible, is it viable nowadays? Will people even care just because of kind of the subject material or how it's going to be depicted? That's a weird kind of, that's not even like subjective. There is a level of objectivity of, but you can't predict society. Like, who would have thought that a movie like Joker would take off in the way it would? Or I don't know, what's a big movie that Star Wars became Star Wars and no one thought it would. It just kind of hits that right button in the way that you can't expect, and you can't really predict that, but you can have a good gauge and try to feel it. I don't know, like, that's the part I really do need to work on top of, I need to learn more techniques, I got to learn my craft better and all that. But there is an outside element of, what am I contributing, that is such a weird X factor. And Good Guy with a Gun is especially a film that that's the thing. I am so happy with how it turned out, but I was scared every step of the way of, could we be doing more damage than good? Is there a sense that, we're just kind of giving a voice to something that shouldn't, giving a voice to hatred in a way that we shouldn't. And it's,
Sorry, go ahead. I'll talk to you about after this, I think hits on why it doesn't, and why I think that, like, does a really good job of expanding. But condemning at the same time. And we'll talk about that later. But
yeah,
it definitely does a good job of not making things worse, but only really expanding the whole idea.
I'm glad, man. I'm happy I shared it with you. I'm happy to get this positive reaction, and I will update folks on my social medias the more that like this film like is able to be available or what is coming of it. I know Brian, the director, is really excited, but he's doing a better job than I do about we will release what we need to release. And, you know, for the people here, it's a little tease for the movie. But just you wait. I'm really excited for people to see this one.
So Pat, we have a segment on our show, which did you do your research? I had to do some research. Did you do your research?
Remind me again what my research was, and I'll tell you if I did it or not.
Watch at least one of these shows.
One of which shows?
The Famous Last Words.
Oh yeah. Wait, no, yeah, I watched Abby's.
You watched Abby's? Okay, that was good. That was a good one. That was
a fun one.
That's the show where I had the most like to talk about and connect with. Wow, now I'm interviewing myself. Because
I want to hear more.
It was back and forth, you know. It was, and like to the credit of Jacob, PJ, and late to the party, they're really good at talking. Like, and that's not a dig. They're just really good at it because this is all we sadly do now. Quarantine has us going crazy, and all we want to do is talk about ourselves. Example A. But especially with Abby, she forces you in a good way to like pull stuff out of you as well. So it creates this really fluid conversation, and you do a really good job of that too.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
So,
it is fun. I took 3 public speaking classes in college: human communication, public speaking, and advanced public speaking, which really teach you about human psychology. Of it's only awkward if you make it awkward, especially in conversation. And there's that people get so disconcerted with pauses or thinking of what to say. And people by nature want to communicate and want to like get to know each other. Becoming a director and like doing podcasting with PJ, if you listen to the first few episodes, I say like every other word. And I know I did it a lot this time, but it's a vocal.
Like what do you mean? Sorry.
Like I say this like, and I just you like it's kind of like this, and you're like, and I just and it really feels like bees are going into your ear because you're like, why? And there it is again. And those are the technicalities of learning how to kind of speak in a freeform conversation. But doing this, chatting and like in these kind of environments, especially getting to know you in this, you find those like-minded souls that kind of understand we're all in this kind of social hub where, we're finding clinging to people who kind of get us in that way. And so it doesn't take much to start off the next conversation.
No.
And especially for someone who wants to direct, which is all about communicating and all about talking to people, this is such an invaluable way of just practicing and just hear your voice, feel it come out, and have this kind of conversation. And, you talk about talking with different people and having to interview yourself. You get self-critical and self-reflective in a way that you're not used to.
The hardest thing is going back and listening to yourself. It is.
I don't do it. It stinks.
The hardest thing, because you begin to realize you're like, wait, I'm not good at this. You're like, my heroes, the people who I look to when I podcast, they are freaking awesome. And then you're like, why do I sound like this? However, I think that happens anyways, because I did a radio show back in community college. When I do enrolled. So like it was like I was in high school while I did this radio show. That's why I'm proud of it. But it was bad. It was really bad.
Was it the first thing you did that was kind of this kind of format?
I podcasted before it. Like I was doing Take 3 at the time. And I ran a show called Late Night with Take 3 that I was proud of. And I still am. It was like fully produced. Not like this even. Like this is a little more stripped down, which is the point. I want to make you feel comfortable,
this is loose. I just want to kick my feet up. If I could, it was flexible.
Come on, this is why you have to work out. Hogue, you have to stretch, do the yoga. Anyways. Oh, I'm proud. Look at you go.
My tendons.
But now we're here, and this podcast, I was like, I got broken up with. So what does every white man in the world do? Let's make a podcast.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So
good mythical morning, everybody.
That's just something I've been wanting to do since January, and the project keeps growing. I think that's the one thing, and that I always come back to you this time, like the show keeps getting better and better, and it's gonna keep getting better and better each week because that's just the nature of the beast, you know.
Yeah. And there's a beauty in failure. There's a beauty in knowing that you can only grow. You have to start somewhere bad so you can get good. And I
Right.
think with anything creative, especially, the first version is going to be bad. But if you know that, and if you know that that's part of it, and that there's just a light at the end of the tunnel waiting for you, it makes this worth it. You know, thinking about just on the watch alongs, we've done what, like 10 at this point? And I think back to the first one I did with you guys of Frozen 2.
Yeah.
And
You nearly cried.
Yeah, but it was also just, okay, yeah, we'll see how this goes. And now we're doing Ryan Johnson month. We're watching all of his films, and we're almost about to do Brothers Bloom. It's when people are so conscious of where they want to be, they don't focus on where they are.
Yeah.
Or maybe they focus too much on where they are and thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. But there's kind of, again, your biggest responsibility right now is to take out the trash, is to practice and learn and get better. Yeah. And there's a beauty in failure. And I think people are really afraid to not try new things and not explore these creative outlets because they know it's going to be rough to start. But that's how you get comfortable, and then that's how you improve, and that's how we can have like this fun conversation. I could not have done this a year ago.
Yeah,
you know,
it's also a confidence builder, and it's also going to be important for you when you're going to be a big shot doing interviews and stuff, and you're like on stage with like Scott Mance.
Scott Mance, how are you doing? I'm Pat. Hi, Pat. I'm Scott.
but
Scott Mance.
But the worst thing to come out of this is we're out of quarantine. We have little time now, but I built a whole summer of reel that I can now use. And that's the thing. It's continually growing, and like if this is the path I want to go down after getting a finance degree, then let's fucking go.
Sounds like a very useful degree, though. That sounds like prime to help you like with troubles as an adult. Speaking as a quote unquote adult, I know, I get it, but gosh darn, does that sound helpful?
Well, the reason behind it, and then we'll go into our last segment. God, we like to talk. This is fun. Was because I think like with film producing, what a lot of people overlook is the process and the scheduling, the budgeting, the why, the why of a product, and being able to look at something as a product. You learn that in business school, and I think my thing is I'm okay at the creative. The creative is what I'm okay at. And I recognize that. And if I was really passionate about it, wanting to be a filmmaker, then I work my ass off. But I am passionate, and I love watching projects, and I love seeing them do well. And I realized, wait, I'm business minded.
Yeah,
let's fucking go.
Yeah.
So
it's again, it's balance. It's a dichotomy. It's, you know, some people have those creative parts that light up more, and it's about where your mindset is really good. It's about recognizing where your faults are, and not even necessarily how much do I need to improve those, but how much do I have to compensate for them. And, you know, again, this is a very analytical way to talk about art, but that is an aspect you kind of have to have a part of it. But it's an analytical way to talk about people, because like, you know, you learn about financing and producing. I want to be creative. At some point we make a film together, and it's, you know, this is part of the journey of balancing yourself out with people around you that can improve you as a person,
right?
Whether it is on technical things or just perspectives, because people are so good at sticking themselves into like their pockets and sticking there, that it's so easy to get locked into just very simple, you know, non-exploratory mindsets. And whether it is, you know, stuff that you know more about producing and stuff I know more about creative, it doesn't just have to be you do that and I do that, but we can like build off of each other. It's very you know, you have to be open to learning what you know you're not great at, and that's a
Right.
very hard and self-reflective thing to do sometimes, but it's so fulfilling if you can do it.
Yeah. So last night before we go on, Michael K says I don't listen to any of my podcasts I've been on this because I despise the sound of my voice. I think that's an interesting take, which obviously it's your own personal thing, but I remember I had that problem because I grew up with a naturally high pitched voice, and I'm always been super self conscious about it. It's one of those things that you kind of have to grow into it and accept what your voice sounds like, or to another part, you can also work on changing it, which sounds really weird, but it's a thing people do. I stuttered a lot. And I also know people who have gone to speech therapy to change something in their voice that they didn't like, whether it's the way how they're enunciating different words or pronouncing it, and you can work on that personally. Listening back to yourself, you have to do if you want to get better, or you're stuck in the cycle of doing the same shit week and week, and you aren't self-consciously working on yourself as a speaker or a podcast host.
It's hard to quantify your voice because I speak, I don't know, like it's how I sound. Like I can't really do much about that. But the big kind of transformative moments I've had recently with acting is the work comes into the control. And especially when it comes into voice. And like you notice this with good actors is that it's not that they just said the line perfectly, is that they could have said it anyway, and they probably have. And it took them saying it every way to get to the right enunciation. And it is, you know, saying, I hate you, or I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And it's at some point having such a control and knowledge of what your voice is that, okay, I want to say it like low and aggressive and let you know that you're not getting out of this alive. I hate you. Like just kind of knowing already before you even say it what the intention is going to come out. And that just takes practicing. When it comes to, you know, radio show hosts or podcast hosts or people who do interviews.
Marathon. It's a fucking marathon. And
you build it up, those muscles, and you build that kind of knowledge about yourself and that confidence and that pre-awareness of, I'm going to say something that sounds authoritative, and I've said enough things that I know what me sounding authoritative versus me sounding a little weaker is going to sound like. And, you know, that's
it hits the serious notes. And also, Michael, something I'd also recommend is looking into breathing exercises. The way you're going to find those, I would also just recommend watching, like looking up videos on YouTube about vocal coaches and singing and stuff. Obviously, you're not going to sing, but a lot of the same things I've learned through, I haven't personally taken voice lessons, but like I've taken music classes where we've had to like learn voice and different techniques on how we can improve our voice. Just even using some of their techniques will help forever improve your flow, improve your rhythm, improve the way how you're pronouncing words and breathing. Okay, we're going to move on.
But real quick, it's also, Mike, no one has a voice like you.
No, yeah.
You know, don't worry about it too much. Improve the technicals, but there's a value to be had there that you might think you don't have just because it's your voice, but I don't know. It's your voice. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, Evan. Hands are up.
So the segment is, can you point up again? There you go. Thank you. Segment's called Famous Last Words. So it's highly controversial. Week to week, I've discussed with my guests kind of why it's controversial and why I'm going to keep it because I love the controversy.
After 5 weeks, it's already controversial.
Oh, it's controversial for 1 week, and then week 3, something came up apparently, and then week 4 barely got through, and now we're here in week 5. So,
oh boy! All right. How are you going to take me down? Am I getting canceled?
I wish. But the idea is, if you were in any scenario, right, what would your famous last words be?
Any scenario?
Any way you want. You can interpret it any way you want, and then I'll hit you with something that you wouldn't expect.
So we're assuming I'm dying after this.
Maybe. Are you?
Okay. I'm being sacrificed. Let's say this. I'm at the edge of a volcano. I'm about to step out. I have been deemed by the human race to be the sacrifice to the gods. And they allow me 3 words. Do you say 3 words I get?
No, you get as many words as you want.
Ooh, interesting.
But don't write me a goddamn paragraph.
Yeah. I give my last kind of I've been chosen because they think I embody humanity in a sort of way. So I have to represent humanity before humanity itself is going to destroy me to what may or may not be a higher power.
Right, makes sense.
And I think what I'll say, without trying to be too pretentious, is...
You're pretentious.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. Hey! We almost made it through, Evan. Let's not get there now, all right, buddy. Henry, get on my shoulder. Yeah, little cameo from So. I think I'd say, to those who love me and to those I've loved. No, that's dumb. This is hard. It's what would you want your legacy to be? And maybe I'm making the stakes a bit too high.
Probably. Let's have the fun. Highly controversial.
If it was going to be that big, it would be like, I make the choice on my own accords. I represent myself.
Right.
If this is forced against me, anybody who would force this isn't true. I don't know. That's dumb. I'm gonna make it intimate. If I was like literally like about to die and like my family was over me, I'd say, I lived a life as good as I did because you were the ones who were a part of it.
Oh shit! It took you a while to get there. That's good.
Yeah. I was like, really, it can't be too big scale. It needs to be small. But like, yeah, it's you. Your life is who you surround yourself with, and that's yeah.
I can't wait to crash on your floor, and then you will have to be surrounded by me.
Evan. Oh, wait, look. Before you say your last words, look who we just got.
Star Drew. What's up, bruh? How you doing? Welcome to the shenanigans.
That would be my last words to you as you were dying.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the fun, bro.
Oh, shit. And then you kill me.
Yeah. And I'm a murderer.
So are you going to like sew me shut?
If I make the sequel, I'll find a way to freak you out.
I'd be the shark bait for it if you need me to. Wow. I can scream.
Okay. We'll talk about it. We'll shoot it in Florida.
Oh, you don't. Oh, dude, think about the Everglades or some swampy shit.
All right, what are your last words before we get too far away from that?
So growing up, when I played baseball, I don't know how this term got coined, but it's called Showtime. I don't know why, but
I can kind of see it. I think I see how it came.
But I don't like to think I'm that arrogant. Like that's the thing, and that's the part I hate. It's like,
you're verbose in the way that someone like presents themselves of like, it's showtime. Come on, woo! Showtime, baby.
But it was time for the fan leagues, and they came around, right? And I don't know if you're around for when the fan leagues for the Schmodown started. So it was a whole thing.
My history with the Schmodown is one rod with. We'll get to that on the next one.
The next one, you're never coming back on. But
your last words, Evan.
my last words. They go. So, what do you want your name to be? I'm like, It's really hard to come up with a new name. You know this. To come up with like a name for something, it's the worst thing.
Oh, I just look at like my favorite movie. I'm like, they used a Paul in that. Easy.
So, my famous last words, and yeah, sure. I guess I'll be Showtime, and that marks my entry into what would be this community.
Ooh,
and then Showtime DeGraff.
I like that. It could also be a question of it's your famous last words for a moment. And then you transition to the next thing. It doesn't have to be death. Why is that controversial? Why are people?
Because some people have interpreted it as like, okay, so my famous last words, as in like what I mean for life, or my overall mission statement, like that. And I'm like, I purposely keep it open because sometimes some open-ended shit is really good. I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. But if I love turning it on their head. I'm like, this is what I mean. They're like, I'm like, yeah.
It made me go from like the grandest scale to like, oh wait, no, it's small and intimate. Like, no, I like the ambiguity because You think hard about that, and some people don't like that.
I know, but we need critical thinking, because without critical thinking, we wouldn't have some of the great movies.
That's humanity.
Yeah, that's true. But with that, we're probably I'm gonna probably end up doing this with you this again, because you're a lot of fun to talk to and you have some great big ideas. Next time, I think I'm gonna try and get even higher than I was this time. I don't know if I was high. I didn't feel it, sadly.
Dude, if you're high, I couldn't tell, because
damn it, that's a shame.
Well done. Because you hit it well, unless everybody in the chat's like, what the fuck is wrong with Evan right now?
Evan's a meth addict, bro. Like,
yeah, what? Meth. Hold on for me to call the. Who do you for that?
And then Starju said, for Evan, enjoy the show, which is Evan. Yeah, that's true. I do say enjoy the show. But where can the people find you and your shit and how things are going?
Find me on Twitter at Hogue_filmmaker. Find me on Instagram. I post a lot on there at Pat the Canadian. At some point, they will both be the same name. I'm just lazy and have not changed it yet. But Pat. So that's funny. But so for everyone and that doesn't understand movie, that would be my job to yell at Pat and be like, change your handle so you can actually have a brand. Yeah, and then I would be like, yeah. I got a script to work on though. So
and then you would do it.
Don't count your money.
What would be the easiest thing to do the hardest thing?
Oh yeah, it's always the smallest roadblocks that stop me. But Instagram, Pat the Canadian, and go check out my films on Vimeo. They're mostly student films. They're a lot of like dumb projects, but I'm proud of them. And they are what I suggested to Evan when I sent them to him is watch them in order of like kind of release and when they were made, because hopefully you will see an improvement over the time. But and go check out So on Crypt TV. We're crawling our way to 200,000 views. Last time I checked, it was 182,000. It goes up by like 1,000 a day. I check a lot because this is big for me.
1,000 a day is insane.
It's cool.
That number is big.
And the reception so far has been great. And I will release more about Good Guy with a Gun when I know more about it and when I can. And Evan, this was a pleasure. This is great. I really appreciated this.
And then all this cool stuff that I'm about to bring up. We got Wednesday, Something Rotten. I can't find the file, but it's fine. Something Rotten is having its second episode, I think. I know there might have been some complications, but I'm 60% sure it's dropping tomorrow here on the channel. Stacey Howard, Frank Janish.
60
returns.
That's a lot. That's good enough.
I could be wrong though.
That's above half.
My analytics could be way off.
Hold on. The Excel spreadsheet is not properly formated for.
It's not working.
Hold on.
Control, Alt, Delete, and Task Force.
And look at that. We just lost everybody.
Fuck. And then suddenly soundtracks. They're doing The Greatest Showman watch along Wednesday, May 6th, which is tomorrow. I have mixed emotions on this movie. But the best suddenly soundtracks of all time is getting re-released here on the channel Thursday, May 7th. Check that out. Me and PJ. That's like where me and PJ started becoming friends and stuff. And we actually agreed on the soundtrack. We feel very strongly about the songs that we think are awesome and don't. So there's that. And then Mary Poppins, that dropped last Thursday. I'm just going to give it another push because I was on it. I love the musical. I think the music in it is actually really underrated. It's really smart, what it does and kind of what it goes to show to prove. And then that also concludes on Friday, the Brothers Bloom watch along. I've never seen this movie, and I know you haven't either. But we both have the same hole.
I'm scared. I am highly debating. This is a little sneak peek of watching it before the commentary, just so I don't feel pressured to not have to talk during it.
Yeah,
but we'll see if I'm too lazy to. So we'll find out.
That's me every time. I'm like, I'm gonna watch Young Guns too, and then I actually download it halfway through the watch along because something else I was trying wasn't working, and it's the trial by fire, baby.
Garbage truck on fire.
And then Saturday, something really exciting is happening. Deluxe 8. It's the first time where we are using a Nintendo Switch.
Wow.
For family game night. Wow. This is actually really big because Chris Clark, I know, has worked tons on this. He got a little capture card. He did the thing, and I'm so proud
He's
of him.
doing all the technical stuff. Wow, Chris, good job.
And then just check out the backlog. PJ, the PJ episode's really interesting. There's a lot of things that he drops that even I didn't know, and I would like to think I'm close with PJ. So that was really good. Jacob, we talk about like community a lot with him and kind of how you process and you go through your livelihood in a community. And then late to the party one, they dropped a how to do YouTube tutorial. And if you're trying to start on YouTube, watch what they have to say. They have 100K subscribers now, and it's what they have done, and kind of the community that they have alone built is incredible to me. And then also check out my episode with Abby Friel. It was a lot of fun. That's probably some of the most fun I've had on this series so far. But backlog, you're now part of the backlog. How's it? Yeah, now part of the backlog.
You know, I'm kind of used to feeling my 5 minutes of fame and then seeing it in the rear view, but it's nice. It's cozy back here. I like this.
You know what? Oh, you can't see my face right now. I am incredibly upset you said that, but
well, I see your face 3 times because I see 3 different graphics, and they're all looking at me with contempt.
I do what I can. And then next week we're gonna have Rachel Silvestrini on. We're gonna talk about literally everything when it comes to like touring, merchandising, even musical theater, and just a lot of her stories, because she will tell you stories that you would never expect to hear. She told me this one thing that just dropped my jaw, because I'm like, how does that work? And then also 7th, we have probably the #1 community leader that people don't know about, Jonathan Youngblood. He ran one of the biggest movie groups in Facebook. The impacts that he has had on film Twitter and in the film community is a lot bigger than people will give him credit for. And I'm going to try and expose that, because that's the point of the show. So, Pat, I think I'm going to see you Friday. Maybe not, because I'm going back home, and it's a whole thing.
Well, if we do, then we shall say hi, I guess, is what people do. And if not, then we will wait until the next moment.
And then I'll send you a picture of me eating shorts.
That is a reference that only the diehard people who follow all of our content will get. Otherwise, you look ridiculous. I hope you're okay with that right now.
That's the whole point. I like looking ridiculous, because
we have a mythology behind us.
Yeah. Well, mythology. Knives Out. I'm not even a Hufflepuff. I wish I had a glove to crush people with. Anyways, that's gonna wrap up the show. You guys can find me at DeGraff Live and on practically all the content here. We work tirelessly. Jake, we literally just hop on a StreamYard for 2 hours and we talk shit. So love you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Pat Hogue is a beast, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys. It was awesome.